supervisor is supervising. Good, excellent. Well, now that we've got the Boise crane spindle sander up and running again, running pretty well, with a little bit of bearing noise, but nothing I'm too concerned about since it's not going to be used in a production setting anymore. We're now going to give some love to the Delta drill press. We're going to start off with some motor work. And let's take a look at where we're at with the motor. So when I got the drill press up and running for the first time, I chopped up an extension cord that I found in the basement when I moved in and used that as my wire. Here, so play with that. Anyway, I just went out and I bought a big boy power cord. This is the same cord, by the way, that I bought for the sander. It's a nice, good quality tool replacement cord with a nice heavy-duty plug, 14.3. Nice quality. And so I put a new cord. I replaced the grommet going into the motor housing. Someday I might repaint this motor, but I'm in no rush to make it look brand new again. Oh, there he goes for it. So anyway, we're gonna replace the bearings. Let's hear what it sounds like first. Yeah, not so pretty. So it just so happens that I can buy these bearings. Look at that spin down though. I mean, it spins real nice. I took the bearings apart and I cleaned them and I repacked them, but it's not doing the job. So we're gonna take these bearings out and we're gonna match them up to something that I can just go out and buy. Then once we get the motor redone, I'm gonna turn my attention over to the quill. We might have to do that in a separate video, and I'm not really. But really, what that drill press really needs is quill bearings, and it needs to be rebuilt, or not rebuilt, but it needs to be trued. And there's a shop that I found that will do both of those tasks for a whopping $150 or so. And I think for about $150, it's well worth it. It's a good old drill press. Has many, many years left to live. And let's pop these old bearings out. Let's see what we can replace them with. And work them out. Come on, come on. You know, it's funny though. These bearings don't feel that bad. I mean, there really isn't a lot of notchiness going on. But you know it's the source of the noise. You would kind of have to be. You know what I mean? But anyway, these bearings are available. ND8013. They're like, I don't know, 20, 30 bucks a piece. But if I roll it on my napkin here, and I don't feel any notching. There's not a lot of slop, so I'm a little surprised that it is so noisy, but that's what she's calling for. God bless a motor that is that easy to repair though. Anyway, this motor, by the way, is made by Packard, not the car company, but Packard Electric. Anyway, yeah, the front one's fine too. There's just not a lot of slop in these bearings at all. Well, here's what we're going to do. We're going to replace them anyway. And, I mean, it couldn't hurt. Okay. Let's see what kind of progress we've made. So the bearings are on order. So that wasn't really a problem, actually. And I'm going to slide that in not too much. I've started the process of refurbishing this motor. I gave it a coat of paint. This is automotive engine paint that I just sort of threw on there. I found that the paint that's on the whole drill press as it sits was applied with a brush. So probably Rust-Oleum Battleship Gray is what they used, and they just brushed it on. And I wasn't going to strip it down to bare metal, so I just painted right over that because I don't really This is not a showroom finish I'm going after. It's just a functional tool and nothing more than that. As for the hardware, I've been taking the screws and such off of the motor and cleaning those up on the wire wheel so it looks, you know, kind of nice. I cleaned up the data tag a little bit with some steel wool. So we've got, again, a new grommet on the power cord, but you can't really tell because it's been kind of painted a little bit, but that's alright. Again, this is a tool. This is not something that's going to sit in the living room in the corner by the TV. This is a tool. We just want to make it run safely and correctly again. Took all the bolts and the motor mounts off, cleaned those up. Here's the motor mount. This also received the paint treatment, and that is going to be reassembled. These are the lugs that slide in and out of the drill press itself. So we're going to put these back on. And these I took to the wire wheel as well, cleaned them up real nice. And what we'll do is when this is all said and done, we'll just start brushing fluid film on all the bare metal stuff. It doesn't rust. But I took the, these are the original new departure bearing caps, and I took those off, cleaned the paint off. These were covered in many layers of paint, and some of them are a little more beat up than others. But you see the chrome is in pretty nasty shape, but we're going to leave it like that. I think it looks nice. It looks good and classy. Look at that. Isn't that nice? Isn't that a beautiful motor? Look at that. That is... You can't buy that level of detail anymore, even though it is a little bit hard and worn and beaten up. One thing I'm finding, though, is that a motor like this, these are getting expensive, and yeah, they're getting a little pricey. But machines like this drill press are, when properly sorted out, are worth quite a bit of money. So the future plans, we're going to do the motor first, and then we're going to get it running again. We're going to do the spindle bearings. I'm going to do all the bearings. I'm not even going to waste my time. I'm going to do all the bearings. I think I can just get the bearings for the pulley and put them in myself. But we do need to send this off, and this is going to get trued. It really needs it a little off. I can't drill a straight hole. It just wants to shake the part all over the place. That's really why I'm doing all this. I took the pulley, this is the motor pulley, and I cleaned this off as best I could. I actually used paint stripper, and I find that paint stripper does an amazing job on aluminum. It can corrode it, so you've got to be real careful. But it cleans it down to this. It does a great job. It's acidic, and that's why you got to be careful. It's very acidic, so you don't want to mess around too much with that stuff. But that's what the pulley looks like now. It actually had dried rubber all over it from the old belt that had been run into the ground, and so it's looking pretty good now, comparatively. So I've decided that while we're waiting for new bearings, we're going to just start dismantling these, and we're going to do that. I'm going to first remove the belt guard. Now this is how I know this is one of the first versions of this drill press, because it has this particular belt guard. Not only that, but it's not a serialized model. Prior to the mid or late 40s, somewhere in the 40s, they started putting serial plates on these. And I believe in the early 40s, they redesigned this belt guard to be, useful. This one, there's a fatal flaw here. If you're working on something and you're not paying attention, and you raise your hand for any reason, you could easily get your hand wrapped up in the front pulley, and you could severely injure yourself. Just happens, It doesn't mean you're an idiot, but that's one of the flaws with this earlier version. So this drill press probably dates back sometime in the 30s, mid to late 30s. I'm calling it a 36. It seems like a happy medium. I'm going to put these bolts back where I got them. And then later, I'm going to pull this whole drill press out, apart, and give it a thorough cleaning and a paint job. You can see the original color here. It was a slightly lighter gray than this, but that's okay. I think I know how this comes apart. So what we need to do is first, we need to undo the spring tensioner. This one actually would benefit from a new spring tensioner. The spring itself, it has broken. There it goes. And I managed to salvage the spring by bending it, but it wasn't a permanent fix. So that quill spring should be probably replaced at some point. All right. Now we're going to take this out, like so. All right. We need to remove locking. Which side? Half inch? I think it's half inch. Just going to pop these off. The jam nuts. These are the original. These may not be original, but the newer ones, at least I know the newer ones, have a knurled nut. So I think that I'm going to go ahead and order those. And the whole thing just slides right out. So I've undone this here. So now the whole spindle, in theory, would slide right out. We need to remove this. We're going to move the table. Lock it down. There we go. So there's our spindle. You can hear those. Yeah, those bearings are, well, they're no good. Pretty obvious. No good. Now, for the front pulley, I believe we have to release the 9/16. Release this nut here, or bolt. I think if I know how this thing's put together, I believe. Look at this. This bearing's no good. All the bearings in this drill press are shot from the motor on down. I think I mentioned earlier this unit was used in a manufacturing environment for its whole life, and so it's seen some use. Now I think by loosening this up, I should be able to pop the bearing. I see. I don't know. I should probably look that up, but I could be wrong. Now this pulley looks like it might be part of the shaft that it's sitting on. I think I gotta pull the bolt out. Let's do that. Yeah, there we go. So get that out. And there's a bearing inside here that desperately needs to be replaced. Now I think I found a source for that bearing, but we're gonna dig deeper and see how much further we need to go. So as for the, I think this is called the quill or the spindle. Looks like that's got to come off. Let's do that. Let's see if this is the right size. Yep. Just gonna pull that. There should be. Is there another one? I think this might just slide right out. Now there's a collar on there. It's going to be about $150. just to have that done. Just gonna do it. Maybe not. And now I need to take this off. There we go. Ow, let's see why. Loosen this GM nut. You know what? That's going to come off through the back side. Jesus. It's going to be fun. It's going to slide off this way. Unless I can get the this collar off. I don't need to pull that out all the way. You see that? Fits right in this hole. So what you can do, like this. Well, I don't want to make too much noise. Yeah, that's the one I want. Let's see if this... we can work it off. That's the only set screw on there. You don't want to move. I believe I send this entire assembly out. I'm not sure. The bearings don't really feel that bad. But they are bad. I mean, listen to that. They shouldn't sound like that. I believe I need a special tool to get the chuck off. I'm going to send that out along with the whole thing. I mean, for what I'm going to be paying this guy, I figure, yeah. See if I can, yeah, there we go. That's how you do her. Take your screwdriver and just use it as a lever, which then splits apart the jaws, and you can get that off. This thing is a greasy freaking mess. Now it doesn't want to move. But you don't want to scratch the shaft. You don't want to do that. But look at how that works. Pure genius. Yeah. Yeah, I can see the bearing from this side, right there. And I gotta figure out a way to get that collar removed. It doesn't want to go. It doesn't want to come off. I just washed these pajamas, you know that. I'm wearing my pajamas, making a big mess of myself. Look at that. Such a slob. I can't have nice things. Let's try this. Now, I don't want to force anything, but I do know that this collar has to be removed in order for us to get this apart. I'm going to take the set screw completely out. There's no like key or anything in there. Yeah, I don't have an arbor press. That's one of the limiting factors here. I have no arbor press to my name. So I don't want to be doing too much pounding and grinding, but yeah, it hasn't budged. So I think I'm going to send this whole thing out and let the forces that may be deal with that. Let me get these nuts in a proper nut container. Don't want to lose any parts here. So I'm going to put this set screw back in. Alright. And we're going to... those are my jam nuts. We're going to lose those. So we didn't remove a lot of fasteners. But what I want to do is we're going to take a look at this pulley. The company that also sells, I think it's Hammerhead or Hammershark tools or something like that, they sell a complete pulley, bolt-on ready, with the bearings already attached. And I'm thinking, going that route, just to save me the embarrassment. Because the problem is, if I crack the pulley, I think it's an exchange basis, and if I crack that pulley, I'm going to be one pissed off mother. So, oh wow, oh, the bearing just falls right out. Look at that. Look at that, just like that. So this guy sells this bearing, and let's see what it is. Let me get a tissue here. Apparently it's a custom bearing, and they're hard to get from what I've read. I'm not seeing, here we go. Let me get some water displacer 40, and we're going to take a look. I'm going to clean this off. Made in USA. Well, you know, it's lasted 80 years. So they did a good job. Grandpa did a great job with this bearing. My God. Yeah, wow. Looks like the seal, what's left of it, still part of it stuck. Or is that grease? That's grease. Yeah. Let's see what we got. Made in USA. Oh, it's a new departure. It's an ND 8850. So, it doesn't look like anything special to me. It looks like I just need to press this out, and I'm going to need an arbor press for that. I don't have one. But it doesn't look like anything special. Then the pulley itself, we're going to clean this up. I'm going to do that right now in the sink. We're going to clean that up and make it look brand new, just like we did with that one. Can you see that? Like that. So let me create a bill of materials and what I'm going to need to make this a drill press again. And I'll get back to you. Okay, so I've cleaned up the pulley a little bit. Yes, it's the same pulley. I cleaned it with paint stripper. It's not the right thing to use, but what is the part number on? That's what I wanted to know. What was the part number on this guy? Oh, it's still not. I need to clean it again. It's still got sludge from the old belt and everything. It is a DP261 pulley, and that matters apparently. What's this one? The motor side is a DP260. So there we go. Anyway, I got to clean this up a little bit more. I've got crap on my hands now. Look at that. Oh man. You can see where they balanced it. They've got the balancing holes where they remove material. The bearing retention ring, or bearing cap, whatever you want to call that, that cleaned up pretty nicely. Apparently it isn't rusted. I thought it was covered in rust. Not the case. Now you'll notice that this guy here is really clean. It looks brand new, in fact. Well, that's because I've already cleaned it. I actually had this thing apart partially. Right when I was getting it running again for the first time, I started tearing it apart and fixing a few things, and that's when I did all this. And I knew at that point that I had to start looking at bearing replacement. So that's got to be shipped off. I may have to buy this as a, I'm not sure what the deal is with this. There is something about this bearing that, oh, I know what it is. I know what it is. This collar here, this is part of the bearing. That is what that's all about. So that's part of the bearing, and that has to be purchased as a unit. And it's very, very expensive. It's about a $90 bearing right there, and it's gonzo. So actually, it rolls okay, but the grease is all out of it. The grease is completely cooked out. But it doesn't have a lot of wobble to it. It's a little bit. But this is a precision tool. We don't want any wobble. Okay, I think we saved her. It's a lot cleaner than it was at this point. I actually did use paint stripper to clean this, and while it may give me cancer someday, it did a fine job of cleaning this aluminum. One of the challenges I had was there was a lot of rubber caked within these grooves. The most commonly used settings, I think the top one and the bottom one, actually the one above, this one here and this one here, the slowest speed and the second from the slowest, they were really caked with rubber. And the bottom was just full of grease and sawdust, and it was pretty nasty. So now all I got to do is get a bearing and send her out. Fortunately, they're both from the same place, so I don't have to go. I don't have to do a lot of shopping. And like I said, what makes this bearing special, if you look at how it's constructed, you'll notice that the inner race is this extension sleeve thing. And from what I understand, when this bearing failed, after a certain year, like probably in the 90s or 80s, by the time all the stock, the available stock ran out, these became unobtainable, which meant that a drill press like this beautiful Delta would basically be junk. If you can't get this bearing, what good is the drill press? So fortunately, there's somebody actually making these, and I gotta get in touch with him, make sure he's got them, and place my order. So $213 is the damage plus shipping. Yes, that's a chunk of change. But hey, as long as it's fixable. But one thing that confuses me is the part listed for sale. I gotta confirm measurements because I have a different pulley than the one listed that it is compatible with, so I want to make sure that I get the right part. I've got a DP221 pulley, and it's listed for 2 different pulley part numbers, so I don't know if that matters. And also the bearing number is not an ND8850. It is something completely different. I didn't think to write down what it was because it didn't seem relevant at the time. And now what we're left with is a rusty pole. We've got all the little bits and pieces already painted and ready to be put back on. I contacted the guy who actually sells pulleys and bearings and shit for these, and he doesn't seem to think that these are the. Well, I told him what I had for pulleys just to confirm that they would fit the bearings, and he was waiting to hear back. But he's like, he didn't seem to think that those pulleys, not that they're not original, but it doesn't match up with what he seems to think that should be on here. So I'm going to hear back from him hopefully today. In the meantime, I've taken the head off, the table clamp and assembly off, and we're going to clean this pole up, but I'm not going to do it the hard way. I want to try something a little different. I've got to clean this up with alcohol, get all the grease off, and then we're going to use Evapor-Rust gel, and it gets painted on, and it does its thing. When you wash it off, and then you coat it with oil or grease or something. This stuff you apply to a paintbrush, it goes on like mucus. It's disgusting. I don't think I like the stuff, but It removes the rust without any sandpaper and shit. I'm okay with that. Just gonna apply it liberally. And it takes about an hour, 2 hours to clean up. And then you rinse it off. So I'm gonna have to somehow find a way to rinse it off safely. I can't do that outside because it's, well, 20 degrees out. Can't do it inside because it's inside. Yeah. Trying to dry it out from the inside. Using a hair dryer. That's why I bought this hair dryer. To do shit like this. So it would make perfect sense in this case to strip this down to bare iron, but you know, I'm not doing that. I'm just going to remove any loose paint. I've cleaned it, I've degreased it 3 times, cleaned it with a wire brush and a Brillo pad, and we cleaned it real good. I just want to reiterate, this is not a careful, proper, good and right restoration. We're taking this 80-some-odd-year-old machine and we're going to put it back to use. And I really didn't want to do any of this. But unfortunately, the bearings as they were just, I couldn't get a clean bore out of it. Yeah, so this has to be done. And the cosmetic work is really just icing on the cake. I really don't care what it looks like. I just want it to work. It doesn't look too bad. I mean, granted, you know, the original or the previous paint job was done with a brush. It's a little better, you know. Alright, so I just got an email back from Gary at Hammer Scale Technologies. That's the company that still produces the replacement bearings ready to bolt on for these drill presses. And this is what he told me. I described what I have, and he says, sounds like you have a very old DP220 machine with a one-piece pulley and spline die-cast piece. Bearing will fit. And he sent over the measurements. That means the pulley and the splines are cast as one. And he sent over the measurements, and we're going to confirm those. So it looks like 52 millimeters and 0.8112 inches diameter on 1-inch extended race. So 52 millimeter. So he gave both Freedom units and everybody else measurements. So 52 millimeters. This thing. What is it set to? It's set it to metric. Zero it out. Yep. Okay. So it looks like the bearing itself should be, oops, yep, and just about close enough. The extended race should be about 1 inch, so we're going to set it back to Freedom units, and we're going to measure the depth. It should be about 1 inch. It is 1.107, but that's, yeah, that's 1 inch. And 1.42 inches, 0.812 diameter on the extended race. Okay then. Well, that's not right. Interesting, the cats are playing out. There they go. They're slamming up there. So I just realized that the outer diameter of the extension should not be a problem, but I did send him an email to confirm, because that's what drops into here, and that, I'm sure that dimension would not have changed. So I think we're good. So I'm going to go ahead and order those parts. Okay, so we've got the pole, the center pole, shaft, whatever. We've got it cleaned up pretty good. So what I found was the Evapo-Rust gel did do the job. It was a little bit more work getting it off because you have to kind of scrub it off. But what I found underneath was nice, relatively shiny metal. I then further honed it down with WD-40 and some 400 grit sandpaper, and I kind of cleaned it with the sandpaper, sanded it, wiped it off, did it again a couple of times. Probably could be done a few more times if I wanted it to be perfect, but this is alright for now. And then I sprayed some silicone spray on it to keep the rust away. At this point, the head shell is fully painted. I think that looks pretty good. I like it. I think it looks nice. Where else are we? Yes. So the table and the mounting collar, whatever the correct term is, I don't friggin' know. That is all painted up. A couple of coats of paint on this one. And I got to do another coat on that one. Moving forward. So now, as for the base, now this is going to have to wait until our next video. I swear to God, I'm not going to add any more. I got to strip that off. I can't work with that. It's just caked on. It's just gross. I have to get some more aircraft stripper. And we're just going to strip the paint off. I don't like working with paint strippers because they are nasty. And I don't have a sandblaster. The pole comes off. It is actually, I believe it's threaded on. So to get the pole off, let's take a look. I've never actually looked at the underside of that plate before, but let's see what it looks like. Oh, she's going to roll. She's on a roll. Either there's a giant set screw. Oh wait, it's clamped on, so that can be taken off. Okay, but we're not going to do that. We're gonna take care of it in place, and then we're just going to sand it. Not sand. That's not what I meant to say. What I meant to say was, we're going to do what we have to do to strip that paint off. But I'm not going to take the pole off. I just don't really want to. Okay, let's get it upright. I was going to use that board as a painting surface, but I didn't end up doing that. So moving forward, I like it. I like it a lot. Anyway, let's just roll it back where it was. This is how you move it around the shop, by the way. You just grab a hold and give it a spin. Now that is quality you can't buy at Harbor Freight. Thing's 80 freaking years old, and it's just ready for its first rebuild. I mean, come on. Will there be people 80 years from now rebuilding Harbor Freight drill presses? I really doubt it. Hell, even DeWalt or Craftsman or whatever, there won't be. I mean, they don't make anything like this anymore. They don't, and at any price, you just can't buy this quality, this simplicity, and the rebuildability of these old damn drill presses. Any tool, for that matter, any tool. I mean, even that table saw, which is only from 1973, you can't get that level of quality anymore at any price. Nobody will sell it to you. Nobody will build it. Times have changed, man. I began reassembling the drill press, at least the parts that I'm done with, just to clean up my workspace. I've got stuff everywhere now. So we've got the table back on. It's coated with silicone so it doesn't rust. Hole is coated with silicone, so this is all reassembled. I'm really loving how this is coming out. Even though I didn't strip it down to bare metal, I think it looks pretty damn good, and I'm actually quite pleased. And just wipe this off a little bit here. I'm probably going to get a new, Yeah, I might get one of these, what the hell is this thing called? The Pulldown Leaver. There's a name for this, I can't think of it right now, but this bar is available for purchase with either red or black knobs from Hammer Scale, and I definitely want to do that. This is something I whipped up together to make this work. This is the original bar, but the original knobs are missing. And this is actually epoxied in place. I'm never going to get that off. So unless I burn it off with a torch, that is an option. But anyway, you see, it's coming together quite nicely. I love how, like, this piece right here. This is brass. Now I thought this was molded into the head shell. It's not. It's actually a brass insert that's tapped in and held in by friction. I have to replace one of the motor mount bolts. It is one of them. The starting threads are damaged, and I don't want to keep using it. So I'm going to get another one from the hardware store. I'll pick it up tomorrow. No big deal. All that's left here now is to strip the base and repaint it, which I'm not ready to do right now at this point. This paint probably isn't going to hold up. I realize that this is engine paint. This stuff is pretty brittle, and if you paint it over top of another coating of paint, it tends to chip very easily. So we'll see how that holds up. Really, it's nothing to tear this thing apart to strip the paint off. It isn't that big a deal. So if I do in the future decide to do so, I will do that. I mean, now that everything has been broken free and cleaned and the rust is gone and everything's happy, it wouldn't be very difficult later on down the road to just, you know, to strip it down and do it differently. Now, to revisit the topic of bearings and bearing fitment, I want to point this out. So, mine is the first version of this drill press. This is from the mid-30s. Believe it or not, it's from the mid-30s. It doesn't look like it, but I mean it does, but it, you know, it's in really good shape despite all of everything. But you'll notice that the splines are part of the pulley. Now those splines carry all the mechanical force from the motor to the spindle and allows the spindle shaft to slide up and down. It goes like this. Now all of that mechanical motion is carried through these puny little splines in this white metal, or probably aluminum, pulley. The problem with that is it actually kind of isn't it could be a problem, because I could see that, you know, through extensive use, these splines could wear out very easily. And especially if you're drilling and putting a lot of force on it while you're, you know, you're cranking down on that handle. There's just a lot of energy that goes through those splines. And what I'm getting at is it wouldn't take much to destroy this pulley, and it could potentially act as a mechanical fuse if the spindle were ever to lock up. There's pretty much a guaranteed end result of these splines shearing off the pulley. So in later versions, from what I understand, the splines are separate from the pulley, and basically means that they can be replaced, potentially. So I just wanted to point that out. There's a little bit of moisture in there. Just wanted to point that out. This is an earlier version. It's the DP220 pulley, and it is an obsolete part. Fortunately, mine's not broken. Now, I do believe I could put a newer version, like the DP265 pulley, on there without any problems. But I definitely have the older version, and I'm actually probably going to get myself a new quill spring. I did fix this one by bending it, and it seems to be holding up okay, but I might want to get another one of those while we're there, you know what I'm saying? While we're there. But yeah, it wouldn't be a bad idea. Alright, in our next video, we'll have bearings for the motor. We'll have hopefully a new spindle, or rebuilt one. We'll have new pulley bearings, and we'll put her back together, and we'll see how she works. And as of today, or as of, well, before I started all this, if I were to drill a hole in a piece of wood, the wood would go like this, and you really couldn't get a precise hole out of that thing. It just couldn't be done. So we'll see if it's any better.